Asexualise my sexual life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality. So subscribe and hit the bell icon right now. So it's been a while since I've done a dating and relationship advice video, but here it is. So if you are in a situation where you've been dating someone for a while, or you've had a relationship with someone for a while, and something's ended, the relationship, the connection is just all gone, and you don't know what happened. It's like they ghosted you, or they had a personality transplant. They had something going wrong with their brain, because you're like, one minute they're this way and the next minute they've completely changed, like what's gone on. Or you actually have someone who admits they've been deceiving you, who you find out's betrayed you or lied to you or done any of those terrible things where trust has been absolutely eroded. Then the brain wants to automatically get closure usually. This is something called fear of missing out, FOMO, F-O-M-O. It's actually something that's well talked about in marketing, for example. People try and tell you a story, for example, like a book, or a story to do with marketing a brand, and they'll leave you on a cliffhanger. This is why a lot of the movies and books work very well with a theme of suspense. They tell you a certain part of the story, then they leave you hanging, right? This is how you want to know what's going to happen next with the next page turn of a book, for example. This applies also to major movies, from scene to scene. You're left on a cliffhanger, like, especially like a who's done it, like who's done what, where, when, and how. You're always left questioning. Soap operas, any sort of drama that wants to hook you into the characters, this is what they do for their motivation, to get you to carry on watching them time and time again. They put these hooks on there, and your brain automatically wants to know what's going to happen next, and it fears missing out on that answer. As human beings, we really are drawn to needing to know the answer. We need closure. We have to have that answer. And this can lead to very self-destructive behaviors, right? It can lead to addiction as well. You can be addicted. I used to be addicted to soap operas. Why? Because I had that. I had the fear of missing out. I got into the characters' heads. I wanted to know what happened to them next. Who did what to whom? What happened there? Like, who's betraying whom? Who's doing this? What's going on, right? But this is how you get hooked and addicted. This is how people get addicted to stuff online, and it's dopamine hits constantly. Boom, 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 right? And they leave you wanting more all the time. The more you want, the more you have to watch, the more you feel compelled within your being to be in that situation again, to put yourself in that situation, to do that thing, to watch that thing, to be with that person, right? But that person, if they've ghosted you, if they've betrayed you, if they've lied to you and they've deceived you, any of those, then this is not a situation you want to keep going back to and keep being in. So, hello in chat. So people who are in relationships that have ended suddenly, this is one of the worst things you can experience. You're literally like, oh my God, like what's gone on? And you're like, one minute everything was fine, the next minute this person is acting like crazy, in terms of you don't know who they are anymore, their personality's changed, the things they said to you are all gone before. Like, this is very difficult in situations where you might have come across someone who's narcissistic, gaslighting you, they deflect onto you their own shortcomings, they make you wrong, they literally turn and blame you for the things that their actions and their mind has led them to. And it might be like, what the hell's going on? Like, what happened? I'm so confused, right? And in this moment, it's natural for human beings to want closure, to want someone to just tell them what they want to hear in order to settle what actually happened. Why did that person change? Why did that person ghost? Why was it when this person was with me for X amount of weeks or months or years even, this person was fine, right? And all of a sudden I'm seeing this behavior from them that's contradictory, that doesn't make any sense, that, is just totally out of order. What's gone on? And And it's really hard, it does something really bad to your nervous system. This is not something to be taken lightly. This is something that's like wiring your nervous system to be up and down, to feel unsafe, to have unclarity, right? And people use deflection, they use deception to manipulate you, whether it's even intentionally or unintentionally. A deception is a manipulation tactic. It's basically saying you can only see me and perceive me how I want you to see and perceive me, right? That's where it's coming from. That is a very, very selfish act. Deception is selfish, right? You are being given a version of them that they want you to see, and that's only because it's in their best interest. Otherwise, they would just be themselves with you. They would have no need to deceive you, right? But it's for their own selfish means. So what people do is they'll go to this person and they'll try and get closure from them. Instead of thinking, hang on a minute, why do I want to keep this person in my life? What is the benefit to me? Their brain is like, I've got to have this closure. I've got to know the answer. I've got to know what went on, right? But here's the thing. If you are with or have been or in connection or getting out of connection with a deceiver, a liar, or a betrayer, you can never, ever, ever have clarity and closure. You can't ever have clarity and closure. Listen to what I'm saying. You can't ever have clarity and closure from someone who betrays, lies, or deceives you, or any of the three, or any combination of them. You can't. Because by definition, someone who deceives is warping your perception of them and situations and behavior surrounding them. They're warping your mind and your reality. A liar cannot give you clarity because you can't trust them. Someone who betrayed your trust cannot be trusted. Therefore, you cannot get clarity. You cannot get clarity and closure from the other person. Because if they're a deceiver, a liar, or a betrayer, they are warping your mind and your perspective of them. And you'll never know what the truth was, ever. Only they will know that, because they're the ones that are lying and deceiving and betraying you. You're not the one doing that to them. They're doing that to you. If you were always honest with them and you never ever warped their reality by pretending to be something you're not, or just presenting a specific version or certain versions at different times, that's not you doing anything wrong. That's them doing something wrong for their own selfish needs, for their own insecurities, their own whatever's going off in their head. That's not your problem. Your problem is giving yourself the closure and clarity you need to end this and get out of that toxicity for good. This is not about getting something from them. This is about getting something from you and having the self-respect, self-love, and confidence and courage. It takes courage to do this, to walk away from them and not need something from them. Whatever you need the something from them, they have got the power and control over you. They can manipulate you at such just a drop of a hat. They can manipulate you. Hi, Heather. So you've got to work on yourself and reflect. Yes. So but it's more deeper than that. You have to have the courage to walk away from this person. You even have to reflect on their behavior, right? If they have deceived you, they have lied to you, and they have betrayed you, how are they someone that you can ever get clarity from? Deception, lying, and betraying is the opposite of clarity. It's confusion, it's manipulation, it's psychological tactics to get you to think a certain way about this person. By the mere definition of lies, betrays, and deceit, it means they are warping your perception and being dishonest and untrustworthy. So what, for 1 second, 1 minuscule second, makes you think you can trust them to give you the clarity of what really happened in all those situations that's buzzing through your mind and how they changed? Why on earth would you even consider that? Why consider getting clarity from a liar? A liar isn't clear. A liar is not telling you the truth. That is not clarity. Why on earth would you try to get clarity from someone who cannot give you clarity because they're a liar? Same with a deceiver who's warped your perception. Why would you try to get clarity about what was right and what was wrong and what the hell went on with your confusion? Why would you try to get clarity from someone who's actually confused you by deceiving you, by telling you things that weren't true, or by portraying themselves a certain way? So you only saw one side of them, or certain sides of them, or certain things about them, and they were secretive and keeping things for themselves, right? Why? You cannot get clarity from someone who warps your mind, who manipulates you, and who doesn't tell you the truth. And this is the truth. So you have to have the courage within yourself and conviction to walk away from someone and give yourself the closure and clarity. The closure and clarity is that person, that version of you, that version of them that you thought they were has gone. It's non-existent. Maybe it never existed. And you will never ever know in that time what was real and what wasn't. You'll never know because they deceived you. You can't get clarity from someone who's done the deception. You can't get clarity from someone who's not telling you the truth. You can't get clarity from someone who's betrayed you because they are dishonest. Do you see how this works? But this is something that most people are not talking about. You've got to recognise the behaviour, says Heather. Yes, you've got to recognise the behaviour for what it is. And you've got to recognise that your brain has a natural instinct to want to get closure from them because you fear of missing out on some information that they have that you don't have, that thinks that, oh, if I get this information from them, it will be resolved. I will be able to sit peacefully at night. Really? Of course you can't, because even if they told you what you wanted to hear, they gave you the clarity that you think you want to hear, it wouldn't actually be clarity. It'd be whatever they wanted to put in your head. More deceptions, more lies, more confusion, more betrayal. You cannot have a healthy relationship with someone who exhibits very toxic, unhealthy behaviors. Let me be clear. Lying is toxic behavior. Deception is toxic behavior. Betrayal is toxic behavior. Why would you want to put yourself back in the firing line with someone who is exhibiting toxic behavior? It's like putting petrol on yourself and almost setting yourself alight, or even doing that. Not quite literally. Don't ever do that at home, right? But it's like you're setting fire to yourself in terms of like your reality, because you are not. This is literal. This is not literally. This is figuratively speaking, not literally, right? Don't do that. Don't do that at home. Never do that. It'll kill you, right? But what I'm trying to say is this is like basically messing with fire. It is literally going into the fire, right? And keeping at it and stoking that fire to make it worse. You're making the situation worse for yourself, right? You have to establish the fact that person you believed existed no longer exists, because if they've lied, deceived, or betrayed you, the perception you had of them was never real, or you don't know what was real and what wasn't, right? You can never know. Maybe some of it was real and others wasn't, but it's only as real as they wanted you to perceive them to be. It's not the full picture if they're a liar, deceiver, or betrayer. Heather, you have to do research on why they do it. Also look up YouTube videos. Right, so we don't need to know why they've done the behavior they've done, because that again is us placing all our time, energy, and effort on them, right? So yes, you can try and figure out why they've done what they've done, but actually that makes us more compassionate. It makes us more empathetic to these deceivers, these liars, and the betrayers, which is not going to help us get over it. You're not going to help yourself get over someone if you're trying to be sympathetic, empathetic. So empathetic people naturally want to understand them. And you can try and figure out and make sense yourself of what you think went on to try and do the healing. But we're not healing fully, and we're stopping ourselves fully healing if we're always worried about the other person. The whole point is, if someone's deceived you, lied, and betrayed you, they have not got your best interests at heart. You have to take back your personal power and put your best interests at heart. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter about them anymore, because the version you loved, the version you cared about, the version you felt connected to and trusted, that is dead. That person's dead. Because that version of them is dead. Does that make sense? Even if that person is still alive in body, they are not alive as you knew them to be or thought they were. Does this make sense? I'm not sure if I'm making sense. I hope I'm making sense to you, right? Because when we're trying to understand and empathize with people, but we're dealing with liars, manipulators, because lying's a form of manipulation, so's deceit, so's betrayal. These are all forms of manipulation because they're trying to skew your mind a certain way about a person, right? These are all toxic behaviors, right? Our job is not to figure them out. Their job is to figure out themselves out, is to solve their issues and deal with their wounds. Heather says you are making sense. Great. Thank you, Heather. So our job is not to dive deep into understanding the other person when they've lied, deceived and betrayed us, right? So in a normal, healthy relationship, we can try and, obviously we need to understand our partner. If we're dating someone, try to understand and be understanding. But there gets to a point when someone takes advantage of your understanding, takes advantage of your empathy, takes advantage of you trying to be kind and caring and understand them. They take advantage of that. They devalue you, discard you even. If you've ever been in a narcissistic relationship or had someone exhibiting narcissistic traits, what do? They present a situation to you, maybe out of the blue, complete shock, you weren't sure about it, and they'll flip it on you that's your fault, the reason why they're behaving badly about that thing. And they'll paint a picture of themselves that isn't true, and they'll flip it over. So instead of addressing their shortcomings, right, and dealing with their insecurities, dealing with their unresolved traumas or unresolved emotional state and unresolved finished business, right, they will instead inflict pain on you because they're deceiving and lying and betraying you by doing so, if they're doing this, right? This is really important. So your job is not to figure them out and fix them, because as empathetic people, we want to help people naturally, usually, and fix them. But you've got to be careful, because if you want to be a fixer, you end up being codependent. If you're not careful, you end up being in the wrong yourself by trying to fix that person. It's not our job to fix someone. It's their job to fix themselves. They have to do the hard work of recognizing their bad behaviors, their bad patterns, recognizing their faults and take responsibility for it. Don't forget, liars, deceivers and people who betray, they're not taking responsibility and accountability for their actions. Actions come with consequences. Actions are something that people need to be held accountable for. If they're not accountable for anything and they just think they can do what they like around you, and they think that, oh, right, this person really needs closure from me, so I'll just keep them dangling. They don't need to tell you, they can't ever give you closure, and they can tell you what the flaming hell they want to tell you. They don't owe you anything, and you don't owe them anything. Once they've betrayed, deceived and lied to you, that's it. You don't owe them anything. You owe it to yourself to walk away from that situation and never go back to it, because you can never trust someone who's done that. I'm not, there's rare exceptions in this world where something could happen, but this is only, listen to me, this is only if the other person has done years of work on themselves, usually in therapy for 2 to 3 years, and they recognize their bad behavior that caused the harm, and they take action themselves, hold themselves accountable and change it. Thank you, Sandra. I'm sending you light. Oh, thank you. Lots of love. So they can only, they have to know within themselves that they are doing the wrong thing, right? They have to hold themselves accountable and actually work on themselves, right? If they're lying, deceiving and betraying you, they don't value you, they don't respect you, and they don't really care about you. Even if they're saying, I care about you, I love you so much, actions speak louder than words. If they've deceived you, lied and betrayed you, that's not love. That is toxicity. That is toxicity. This is not love. Even if they say, I love you, words mean nothing without the actions to back it up. This means honesty, compassion, empathy, valuing you, and wanting to get to know you, being enthusiastic to see you, caring about you, wanting to bring out the best in you, not someone who puts you down, gaslights you, deflects from you, and doesn't take any accountability for their own shortcomings, right? Deception, lies, and betrayal are very bad traits. These are toxic traits. These are not something you can build a stable foundation of love and care and compassion on. There's something you should be running a mile from, right? And we don't need to figure out the other person. We can try and figure out. We will. Our minds will naturally try and figure it out. But there comes to a point where you can try and figure out and you can try and guess, but this is guesswork, right? Because we're not that person, So we'll never truly know. But there comes to a point where you've got to just decide, right, okay, the person I knew, the version I knew of them that they portrayed to me is dead. That person is gone. They no longer exist. They're checked out, whatever you want to call it. Did that version ever exist? Maybe. But was that version just a version of them they portrayed in order to warp perception, or was it real? Was any of it real? You don't know. And that's a problem with deceivers and liars and betrayers. You never know what the reality was with them and what wasn't. And this blurs your whole sense of reality. You look back at the relationship and dating scenario and you're like, what the hell went on? What was real and what wasn't? And the longer they betray you, deceive and lie you, the worse the betrayal trauma can actually be. But you could be in a very short-term relationship, and because of the impact that relationships had on you, psychologically, physiology wise, and also emotionally, it could be like a short-term relationship. The amount of kind of stages you've gone through with that person, such as, like approach and build, rapport, reciprocity, and be really into each other, attracted to each other, and then go out on a date and then get into a relationship really quickly. It's full on, it's basically love, blah, 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 lovey-dovey. And then all of a sudden, one of the people changing it, that can also be very traumatic. And you find that actually they've been lying, they've been cheating already and seeing multiple people, and they don't really like you as much as you thought they did, or they turn your own mental health against you, which is really bad. All this type of stuff, right? So it can be a long-term relationship, a dating scenario, or just something very short. But what happened in succession really has a dramatic impact on you, right? So I want you to stop going after people. Stop going after people to get the clarity and closure you need when someone's exhibiting these toxic behaviors of betrayal, deceit, and lies, right? Of course, if it's a healthy relationship, you're wanting to end it amicably, this is different. This is not what this video is about, right? Because of the title. If it's a healthy relationship, you're just finding that it's not going the right way, and you just come to the conclusion it's better to part ways. Nice chat, that's fine. You can talk about it, get clarity and closure from each other if that's the right way to go. But if someone's ghosting you, if someone's lied, betrayed, or deceived you, you cannot get closure from someone who's not even got the respect to be honest with you, who's not got the decency to be kind and caring and honest. It's not kind deceiving someone, it's not kind lying to someone, and it's not kind betraying someone. Right? It's not kind to warp someone's perception. So whatever self-inflated ego that person might have about themselves, right? That's their problem. That's their ego talking. That's not caringness, compassion, and the love and respect you deserve. So in these moments, we have to have self-respect to walk away from these toxic behaviors and not go back to this type of person, not go back to that person. The closure we need is within ourselves. We realize that we have to work through our own grief by ourselves, not with this person, because this person caused our grief, and we have to let them go emotionally. We have to let them go from our body. We have to understand they are no longer part of our life, that they are a different version than what we thought we knew about them, and that person that we knew or thought we knew is dead. They're gone. That's all the closure we need. And you can never ever get clarity and truth from someone who's a deceiver, liar, and betrayer. Because by definition, they're the opposite. A deceiver is someone who warps your reality, who's not clear with you on purpose. Someone who's lying to you is deceiving you. They're not being truthful and honest. They're blurring your reality. Someone who betrays you has literally turned on you and basically devalued you and not been loyal to you. You cannot trust them. All these are very untrustworthy behaviors, right? So you cannot get clarity from someone who's not told you the truth, and you'll never know what the truth is. Yes, someone, you could go to them and they could tell you a pile of bullshit. Like, they could say whatever they want to say to make you feel a certain way, right? That gives them the power, that gives them the control, that allows them to still warp your perception and manipulate you. It allows them to have control over you like a little puppet, right? Is that what you want to do? No, you have to take control of your own life, your own mind back, in your personal power, and realize that version of you, that version of them, and you with that person has gone, right? You cannot get closure and clarity from someone who's doing the opposite, right? They're purposely not giving you closure because fear of missing out, it draws you to them, right? What do most people do with a toxic ex? Someone who treated them really badly. A lot of people, what do they do? Oh, I don't know what went on. Oh, 1 minute we're doing this and the next minute that, and I've got to find out. I have to find out. No, you have to realize this finding out is a dopamine hit. It's like an addiction. It's like a need that's been embedded in you from watching like certain programs and stuff where they have to have that hook. Fear of missing out. This is a psychological tactic, right? You think to yourself, right, I don't trust this person. I can't trust them. They've deceived, lied, or betrayed me. This means they're untrustworthy and dishonest. Therefore, they can never give me the clarity or closure I need. Therefore, I have to close this book and this chapter in my life myself. I have to work through the grieving process. You might be trying to work out their behaviors, but you can never, ever know for sure if you're right about that, because they've lied, deceived and betrayed you. And if you go back and try and ask them about it, do you think they're going to tell you the truth? Why? They don't owe you anything. If they didn't even tell you the truth in the dating or relationship scenario, whatever other connection, it could be a friendship or acquaintance at work or something like that, you know, if they haven't given you clarity throughout the whole entire part or some of the parts of that connection where they've lied or betrayed or deceived you, why do you think they're going to give you clarity and truth after it? Why? It's ridiculous and ludicrous. So we have to give ourselves the closure we need by realizing that person no longer exists. Maybe they existed in the past, or maybe they didn't. Maybe it was just a whole illusion. Someone who deceives you has warped your perception of them. They've been secretive, probably kept things to themselves instead of having open, honest communication and conversations. They've probably, you know, a lot of the time people who are deceivers lie as well. They'll tell you what you want to hear, or they'll lie about themselves, or they'll avoidance, like avoidant tactics. Don't want to talk about that. Not interested in talking about that. They won't talk about that. They'll have no opinion on certain things or stuff like that. Avoidancy tactics. There's no, you know, it's just avoidance. And that, you know, when someone's avoidant and deflecting and they're taking accountability, you can't have a healthy relationship like that with someone. So we need to realize that we have to give ourselves the closure that we need, and that gives us the clarity. We realize that version of the person is dead. Even if the physical body is walking around, right, that version of themselves is gone. It's dead. It's no longer in existence. And we'll never know what was true and what wasn't. This is hard because it ends in betrayal trauma, right? Betrayal trauma is not much talked about. And when someone's deceived you, right, it's a form of like betrayal. It's betraying your mind. It's betraying your sense of safety and security and stuff like that. And you know, if you find out someone's deceived you for all that time, it's like, my God, you know, you could say you've wasted all that part of your life. But don't beat yourself up. It's not your fault, is it? If they've displayed toxic behaviors, if they were lying to you, if they were deceiving you, if they betrayed you, it's their behaviors. Right, so don't allow them to put that on you. Don't allow them for 1 minute to make you think that you're the problem when they're doing that. It's funny, isn't it? Well, not funny as in a ha-ha way. It's crazily how these people believe for 1 minute that you're the fault if they are lying, deceiving, betraying you. Because those are toxic behaviors, and not taking any accountability for that or responsibility for that, and thinking you're the problem when they've deceived, lied, and betrayed you. How can that happen? Obviously, if you're doing that back to them and you're just as bad as them, then yeah. But if you are a kind, caring, loving person, then you know this is just not acceptable behavior. And when I mean kind, caring and loving, there's this big thing like, oh, I can't be so unkind to them as never to speak to them again or cut them off or even think they're toxic, right? Kindness is not about not accepting the reality of who someone is. That's not kind to yourself, right? Kindness, you have to be kind to yourself first and foremost, not just other people, right? It's not unkind to cut off someone who's toxic. It's absolutely essential for your own safety, health and well-being to cut a toxic person off, right? This is not about being unkind. This is about giving you the space to thrive, I'm saying that word, thrive and flourish, and to get away from those destructive, toxic behaviors and any essence of them. Because if you stay around that type of thing, right, it'll eat your soul. It'll eat at you. If you want to get closure from someone who's lied, deceived and betrayed you, you'll never have it, because you will never know the truth. They could just be lying, deceiving and betraying you and continuing that. You'll never know, right? So you're grasping at straws, right? It's not unkind to cut someone off. It's about self-respect, self-love, and sticking up for yourself and holding yourself accountable to your own standards for what behavior is acceptable and not acceptable. You shouldn't be accepting behaviors of deceit, lies, and betrayal. You shouldn't be accepting behaviors like that, right? You shouldn't be allowing yourself to go back to being around these type of people. True, says Heather. Right? What you need to do is leave them be. If they want to be in their own toxicity, that's their problem. They're not going to have a very happy life, are they, really? If all they do is want to deceive people and make people believe a certain thing about themselves, right? That person must, like, if that person actually has any self-awareness whatsoever and sits and reflects on their behavior, if they've got any self-awareness, if they've stopped their ego and everything else that's going on, and thinking, oh, it's fine to lie, deceive, and betray because, you know, like, it's only for their selfish means. It's no benefit to you, is it? Them doing that? No, of course it's not. It's for their own selfish needs and desires, right? You know, like avoidant behavior as well. That's not healthy. That's not kind. It's actually not telling someone the truth. It's bending reality and perception because they know if they said something, you might not like it, but by not addressing it, they're making out that they're okay with it, or it's no big deal, or they're not connecting with you in that way, right? We have to have hard conversations, and we have to have open and honest communication in a healthy way, not in a toxic way, right? And we have to have a conversation with ourselves and say, look, you will never ever get closure from a deceiver, a liar, or betrayer. You have to close the door on them. You have to go through the grieving process. Your brain will try and make sense of it. It will never be able to make sense of all of it. And you have to come to the conclusion, this person, as you thought they were, is dead. They don't exist anymore. They don't exist. Did they ever exist? If they blurred your reality, if they deceived, lied to you, you'll never know the true them. So therefore, it didn't ever really exist. It's a bit like having an illusion, but this is hard. This is huge betrayal trauma because it distorts all your reality. You're going back thinking what was true and what wasn't. You find out they lied or deceived or betrayed or all three. And you're trying to think in your head, like, what was real? Which version of them was real? What did they say when they were trying to be nice to me? Did they really think was they really being nice, or were they talking behind my back? When they were seemingly to be kind, were they really being kind, or did they have an ulterior motive or agenda? Were they only kind up to a certain point when they got everything they needed from you, and then they discarded you and treated you like dirt? Right? Did they actually value you as much as you valued them? Were they equally asking you questions about yourself? Were they equally having input? Were they equally having those tough conversations? Were they equally wanting to try to connect with you? Right? If they were deceiving, lying, and betraying you, then I'm guessing no. Heather, basically you've got to choose peace. Yes, I have to say that something recently happened in my life where a connection's gone. And I do have to say that for the first time, I do have some inner peace, right? I'm not got inner peace all the time. I'm going through a grieving process, right? And, you know, it's up and down. That's just natural for grief, right? You have to go through grief, not avoid it yourself, right? Don't avoid ourselves. We have to live in the thickness of our emotions, the upset, the hurt, the pain, the anger, and the anguish, and the thoughts that go around in the head, right? And, you know, trying to make sense of things, right? But, you know, I do have some inner peace. Like, you know, no longer do I have to feel that it was a one-sided connection, you know, in the connection sense. No longer do I have to feel that I wasn't as valuable to them as they were to me. No longer do I have to have these types of feelings anymore. No longer do I have to be the one to have the difficult conversation and initiate things. You know, which is exhausting, right? It's very exhausting if you feel that you're the one putting a lot more time, energy, and effort into it in terms of connection, right? Regardless, I mean, they might be in your life every day. Maybe you live with a person or something. Do you know what I mean? And they might still be physically there, but there's a difference between being physically there and mentally and emotionally checked out, right? You can live with someone. I know people who, or I've known people like are in relationships. They can even be married, like I said, and they're in relationships and they're with someone, but yet they can be so lonely. Do you know what that feels like, to be so lonely in a connection, in a relationship, in a dating scenario? Because if the person's not emotionally available, if they're checked out, if they're only giving surface level conversations, if you're not getting to the deep root and core of who they are and how they function and trying to build something together, it can feel like you're so alone, even if you look like you're not alone because you've got the person with you. Right. And that's how some people in marriages feel. They're like, I'm married and this person's physically present, and they go to work and they put money on the table, and they're providing food and shelter and water or whatever, and they're sat next to me keeping me company at night. But that person can feel so lonely because they're not emotionally connected to that person, and that's a really difficult place to be in, right? And a lot of people who deceive, lie, and betray, a lot of the time they're avoidant, because they're avoiding dealing with their emotions and dealing with the emotions with you in the connection. And they're not being healthy for you. They're not connecting on the same way that you need that connection. So what you should be doing if you've encountered a situation like this, you need to be removing yourself from this person's life. Obviously, if you're married with kids or something like that, then you can't just leave their life, right? You have to have work out who's having the kids. But what you need to do is go into a business-like mode with that. Formality, small talk, right? You don't want to be getting any emotional connection with that person. They do not need access to your time or energy unless absolutely necessary. So you have a conversation about the kids. When do you want the kids? This type of thing. I don't have kids, so I'm not going to go through whole conversation scenarios when I don't have that expertise, right? But you would, message saying, like the arrangement with the children, does that person want them every other week? What about special occasions and this type of thing, right? Or, an upcoming event. Are they going to go to it, for example, blah, 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 right? That's it. Formalities. You don't get sucked into emotional conversations with them. You don't connect on an emotional level with them from yourself anymore, because even if that person's checked out emotionally, if you're giving emotionally still to that connection, you are the one who is like not in control. They're in control of you, really, right? They're in control of the situation. They're the powerful one, because they are the ones that hold their emotions to themselves, and they've distorted, for example, your perception, your reality, with lies, betrayal and deceit, right? And to have emotional connection with you, they're pulling your emotional heartstrings, or what I mean, it's not healthy for you. So you keep it businesslike and professional. You don't get involved in deep, meaningful conversations with them, because that version of who they were with you in that relationship scenario, right, has gone. If you are separated, split up, end of relationship, that relationship doesn't exist anymore, right? This is a different relationship now. Even if you are having to still connect with them for kids, that it's changed the dynamic. The dynamic has changed. Therefore, that actual relationship no longer exists. Is this making sense? So I want you to think, instead of, oh, I still feel connected to this person, which you might do, and that's a natural thing. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up. I want you to start thinking you're not connected to the same thing anymore, because the dynamic has changed. Therefore, it's not the same anymore. That person is not the same anymore. You're not the same anymore. Things have happened and gone on, right? This is why it's so hard if you are trying to repair a relationship where there's been deceit, lies, and betrayal. I'm not saying it can never happen, that people can't overcome that, but unless the person's very accountable for their behavior, spend 2 or 3 years in therapy working on themselves and realize what they've done, and actually shows real change, could you, or even should you, be considering anything like taking them back? And personally, I think once something's over, that's it. You leave. You do not go back, right? Because usually they still have the power over you. Because the fact that you've gone back often is a sign that, that they have a power over you. There's a saying that goes, a person who is scared the most to leave of a relationship, connection, or anything, the person who's scared the most to leave is the one who has the less power. The person who can just walk away like that, or the most easiest, can have the most power. Heather, I rather have friends. Yeah, if the friends are good. But this can apply to friendships, Heather. Everything I've said can apply to friendships. I had a so-called friend who I had I found out, deceived me for 5 years, the whole entire 5 years of the friendship. They admitted this in messaging to me. So this is not some random thing that I came up with. This is actually what happened. And I'm not going to go into the details of who this person was. I'm not going to say any names or anything. But for 5+ years I was friends with this person. And they deceived me the whole entire friendship. They weren't who I thought they were. Now, I still have betrayal trauma from this. I mean, it completely blurred my reality for 5+ years. I never know. This is a prime example of when I've applied this myself. I will never, ever know now what was real with them and what wasn't. What the truth was and what wasn't. Because they deceived me for the whole time of the friendships. And the first time we met up in person, from that whole time they deceived me. Which means they warped my perception and my reality for over 5 years. This, in case you didn't realise, is emotional abuse and psychological abuse. I want to say that again. If someone deceives you and they weren't who you thought they were, they deceive you even in a friendship, like I'm giving my own example here, right? They warp your sense of reality, right? This is a psychological and emotional abuse. They're an abuser. It's just not a form of abuse that most people talk about, because most people don't think, oh, that person deceived me for 5 years. They abused me for 5 years. But that's what actually happened, because they warped your reality and perception of them for all that time. It's psychological and emotional abuse. And you have to call it out for what it actually is. I think we need to get tougher in in really understanding what deception means and how we address it and how we term it, right? If you term, right, I was in a friendship, right, for over 5 years. Deception. The whole 5 years was deception, right? They basically, and they paint themselves as a victim. I have to say this. It's very cunning. This people to the public, this person's the victim, right? They're the victim of, like society and mental health difficulties. And I'm not saying they haven't got mental health difficulties, and that's not, it's fine. If you've got mental health difficulties, own them, work through them, but don't destroy other people. There's a saying that hurt people. I don't believe that is entirely true. Not everyone who has been hurt hurts others, right? Some people choose to go the other way, right? If you've been hurt in the past, if you've been deceived, lied, or betrayed, yes, you can become that yourself. That's how we see family dynamics and trauma pass through to generations when people keep the cycle going, right? But if you're an honest person, a caring person, and you just believe in the truth, right? And it doesn't matter what someone does to you, you still keep that truth, right? That's a core of who you are. Heather, yes, it is. Sandra, yeah. So we have to understand that this can happen in friendships. A lot of asexuals, for example, they don't want relationships in terms of romantic relationships. A lot of them are aromantic. They lack romantic attraction, right? So this means they have a lot of friendships, very close friendships, close, intimate friendships, some of them. If they're avoidant, not necessarily, because avoidant people tend to prefer their own company and not get emotionally entangled with anyone, including close friendships. So they prefer to be on their own, have their own autonomy, think it's better just to be by themselves and all this lot, right? Which is often a trauma response from childhood, right? There's no doubt that these people have gone through trauma usually in childhood, but that doesn't give them a right to deceive, lie, and betray you. Bad behaviour from them does not put right the bad behaviour they had in their childhood. In fact, it just keeps it going. It keeps the cycle going. It's actually basically saying, well, that's fine that these people did to me. I was done wrong, so I'll be wrong to other people. In a way, it's just like emphasizing what the abuser did to them and putting it onto someone else. That's not right. But there are people that are hurt and they don't hurt others. They seek help. They try to understand themselves. They try to understand their own behaviors, and they try to correct them over time, little by little. They know they're not perfect, but they're trying, and they want to help themselves because they want to be better for themselves and for other people and the connections they have, right? This is about growth mindset, right? People who deceive and lie and betray, they're not into growing themselves. They're just interested in manipulating the mind of someone else for their own selfish desires and purposes. Now, they're not going to say this. They're not going to say, I'm a selfish so-and-so and I'm deceiving you and I'm warping your perception. Of course they're not. because that would deflate their ego and their sense of self, and what they, especially if they paint themselves a victim. Like, oh, everyone's done bad things to me and I'm so bad. I'm not just denying that people might have done bad things to them. But just because they've had bad things done to them doesn't give them the right to go and do that to someone else. Heather, I'm sorry that happened. Thank you. It was awful. It was really, really awful. This person deceived me for the whole 5+ years of the friendship. It was awful. And they revealed it all to me at once. And they go, I didn't want to hurt you. And I'm like, you've hurt me more. Now that's selfish. Now you might think, oh, they did it to preserve me. It wasn't. It was self-preservation on their part. All they had to do is say at the beginning, I'm not who you think I am, and I don't think we'd get on if you knew who I was. So I think it's better we don't be friends. That's all they had to say. They didn't have to deceive me for 5 years of the friendship. They have to paint themselves to be someone they're not, to warp my mind and warp my perception. They didn't have to do that at all. They didn't have to do any of that. There's times I was there for them when others weren't, right? But are they valuing me? No. Still, you'll find that the people show their true colours in the end. They might be needing things from you in the moment. So of course they are, generous with you, maybe even kind and caring to you. But once they've got everything they need out of you, if they were having selfish motives for helping you, then they'll discard you because you're no longer valuable to them. They no longer need you, right? I personally, if I've had people help me in my life, I usually really value that person. But you have to let someone go who you might have once valued if they no longer value you. I'll give you another example, right? I knew someone from school. I'm still Facebook friends with her, actually. But what happened was I was friends with her from primary school and secondary school. Now, when I was being bullied in secondary school, this person stuck up for me. And I'll never forget it. And I felt like I'd owed them a lot of my life. I owe them. This is a big deal, being protected from bullies. And I had a so-called friend at the time, which wasn't really my friend, because they actually sided with people who bullied me. They were friends with people who bullied me, which is just awful. Right. And anyway, so this person stuck up for me at school, and I always felt indebted to them. I'm so grateful and so thankful for them doing this. And I'll always know they were a true, real friend in that sense, or someone who really cared about me. Right. And so I grew up and I went to visit this person. I went to, Heather says projection isn't good. No, it really isn't good. And so I went to see this person, and, I used to start seeing her. It's only about once a year, Christmas, right? She lives not far from my parents. So when I used to go to my parents, I used to arrange to see her for Christmas. But then what happened is about 3 Christmases in a row, she used to say she was poorly. She was sick, right? And she couldn't see me. And so one Christmas, fair enough. But having 3 of them, I realised something was off. And I felt like it was me who was wanting to see her more than she wanted to see me. So this person, I don't think, lied to me. I don't necessarily thought they lied to me. They just didn't tell me the truth of how they were feeling. But I felt it, right? So in the end, I said to them, look, I don't think I should be seeing you anymore, because I think that basically I feel the friendship is more one-sided, that I'm really wanting to see you and you're not really wanting to see me, because obviously you've been basically I decided that they were saying they were sick because they just didn't want to see me. So in the end they said to me that they agreed that I deserve better and for us not to see each other again in person. I still see her. I'm still on Facebook friends with her. Sometimes she sends me a happy birthday message. This year she didn't actually. But you know what I mean? So it's not someone I completely cut off. But I was honest with her and said that this isn't working out for me, because I was just feeling awful. I was feeling it's a one-sided friendship. And I felt like I owed her something from all the times that she was there for me in childhood to do with being bullied. However, I have to say that I did help her get through a difficult time, because she had a boyfriend who committed, he basically, I was going to say committed suicide, but I think it might not have been suicide. It might have been, he was ill or something. And anyway, he died suddenly from a young age. I can't remember why he committed suicide, or I think he might have had something wrong with him. Anyway, he was something happened and something was horrible and it was really bad. and he died young. And so, but it had to have an investigation about his death, and there was lots of other stuff which I don't want to go into because it was personal to that friend and what went on. But in essence, I was there for her when he died, and I did, by going to see her, because I think I went to see her a bit more than just Christmas then, I helped to get through some of those tough times and gave her hugs and you know, like held her and stuff like this when she was really, really upset, and a lot of other people didn't want to know, right? So I actually did in effect repay her kindness for stick up for me when I was being bullied at school by being there for her through that. But you have to come to an understanding that if a friendship or connection seems one-sided, then you have to just let it go eventually. You have to amicably let it go or just let it go. Do you know what I mean? Depending on who the person is and the circumstance. Obviously, someone's lied, betrayed, and deceived you. That's not an amicable friendship end. That is just a traumatic turmoil end. And it's something you have to walk away from. A true friend would not do that to you. They would not lie to you. They would not betray you. They would not deceive you. That's not a true friendship. That's not someone who values and cares about you. That's someone who's come from their own place of selfishness, right? Because they're doing something for self-centered reasons. They're not helping you. They're just helping themselves. Do you know what I mean? So we have to use discernment, and we have to understand we need to walk away from these types of people, give ourselves the closure and clarity we need by realizing this version of them that we thought we knew no longer exists. It's dead, basically, even if the body's still walking around, and you won't know what was real and what wasn't. And you'll never know. You can, even if you go to someone like that, you can never know if they're telling you the truth or not, because they're a deceiver, a liar, and betrayer. Therefore, they're not being honest anyway. So your closure is, this is over. The version and friendship or connection, or where it's dating, relationships, or we've talked about friendships now, in any of these scenarios, whatever happens, that is gone. It's no longer existence. It's stopped being in existence straight away when there's deception, lies, or betrayal in it, because your perception's been warped. Your reality's been blurred. Your truth is not even there. You don't know what the truth is and what isn't. It's like the person who betrayed me, they betrayed my trust because they deceived me for 5+ years of the friendship, going back to that again. I can never know the truth. All those times I was with them, I don't know now. Right? They told me some other stuff, that all the Skype calls I was doing with them, they basically didn't really want to do with me. So all the times that I was Skyping them, and I helped them through COVID, because they were going through COVID times. I helped them when they're, you know, other people were not even there, right? And so it's just like, I went out on a limb to help someone, and it's just ungrateful and just horrible. They warped all my perception for all that many years, right? Yet this person likes everyone to think they're a nice person. Be aware of Mr. Nice Guy, or Mr. Nice Person, or she, it doesn't matter what gender it is. Beware of the Mr. or Mrs. or person, nice person, right? Because just because they paint themselves as a nice person doesn't mean jack shit, excuse my language, right? If their words don't align with their actions, then it's questionable, right? Someone can paint themselves as a saint, or, you know, this really nice person, but if they don't treat you well, that's not nice. If they don't treat you with kindness and respect and value, especially if you've been kind and caring to them and done a lot for them, that's not nice, right? And what we have to do is understand, if we leave that situation, we have to be kind to ourselves and caring to ourselves, and we have to go from that situation. It's not about being unkind to them. It's about being kind to ourselves and respecting ourselves enough to walk away from toxic people and toxic behaviors that do not serve us in our life. There is no good being around toxicity. Toxicity spreads. It spreads into your veins, into your soul, into your mind. Why would you want that? Why would you want to poison yourself? Why would you want to poison yourself by going back into that situation? Poison your mind. Blur your own reality. Why? Well, you know, when I say blur your own reality, you're not actually the one blurring, but you are blurring it by going back to a person who blurs your reality. You're allowing that to happen. You're putting yourself in that position. So by putting yourself in a position who with a person who deceives you and deceived you, right? You are in fact allowing them to blur your reality. Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you go into that toxic environment again? Why would you go into that not knowing what's right from wrong with them, not knowing what's false and true with them, right? You don't want to go back into that. You want to stay free of that. You want to build a better life for you with better people, more caring and compassionate people, people that have boundaries, people that have standards, people who have self-respect. Because if they have self-respect, they're more likely to respect you. I'll repeat that. If they have self-respect, boundaries, standards for behaviors within themselves and other people, they are more likely to respect you and have respectful dynamic with you. So the closure and clarity comes from yourself, not from the other person. That person, if they deceived, lied, or betrayed you, that person, version of them you thought they were, it doesn't exist. Because you don't know what's real and what doesn't. So you can't go getting closure from a person who wasn't even telling you the truth about themselves. You can't. Right? So we have to close that chapter. Now, when I say close that chapter, I do not mean shortcut your grief process. I do not mean just push your emotions down, suppress and repress your emotions. That's not healthy. Right? We have to be in our emotions, be in those state of emotions. The tough ones, the painful ones, the hurt, the betrayal, the deceit, the lies they told you and other lies they might have told you that you'll never know about. The secretiveness, the bending and warping of your mind, the abuse that you were subjected to. We have to be very crystal clear on that because we can't deal with the situation if we don't face the reality of it. I'll say that again. We cannot deal with the situation if we don't face the reality of it. Facing reality head on is something they've avoided doing because they want to lie, deceive and betray you. They're not working in reality. They're working in their own delusional state. Heather, saying sorry all the time in friendship sometimes feels like another tactic. Well, a person shouldn't be like saying sorry in friendship all the time in friendship sometimes feels like another tactic. Yeah, it's very interesting you say that. Like, if someone, it's very difficult because obviously you have to take accountability and responsibility for your wrongdoing in any relationship. You need to own up and say sorry if you've done something. But at the same time, you've got to be very careful of the other person pushing you into saying sorry when you really haven't got anything to say sorry about. Or if you're saying sorry from a helpless place, like because you're a people pleaser. And it's like, oh, sorry, I did this, sorry, I did that. And you feel like you can't even breathe and you're on eggshells all the time. Right? So you have to use your discernment about that. Right? And if a person is saying sorry repetitively, but they're not taking any action to change the behavior, then it doesn't mean anything. Right? If you get a person, right, who comes back into life, they've been without you for a year, right? They come back a year later. I'm very sorry for the behavior. I'm very sorry I hurt you. What you're going to do? Are you just going to go, oh, that's great. They're sorry. Everything's fine now. No, you're not going to do that. If they have not changed their behavior, and even a year, right? Most people do not change their behavior. They're wired a certain way and their patterns always come back, right? Their patterns come back unless they break the pattern and want to keep it that way, right? For good reason, right? They have to have a motivation for doing that, right? Their patterns continue, right? So if someone comes back and says, I love you, I miss you, that means nothing without action to prove that they have changed in the ways that caused you harm. If they're deceived and lied and betrayed you, what makes you think that someone coming back into your life a year later is going to be any different? What makes you think that? And why do you think they've done it? Do you think that they're thinking about you a year later thinking about you in an unselfish way? Of course they're not. They're probably feeling sorry for themselves. They're probably feeling guilty. They might be feeling lonely, that they've got no other people in their life, or they need an in-between person. Do you know what I mean? They might be missing you because you actually gave them something that no one else gave them. You know, they might have devalued you and then thought, oh my God, this person was like really valuable and I lost them. Just because they realize even that about your value means nothing if they are not giving you the same value and respect and care and time and attention you need and deserve. And if they haven't changed their behavior, if they haven't changed the behavior that caused the problem in the first place, There's no change. Nothing's changed. They need to crawl back to their hole or wherever they came from. Nothing has changed. Nothing can come of nothing. Nothing can come of nothing, right? You can't make something out of nothing. No change means the same, right? Means the same. Is the person even saying sorry to you? Most of them don't. I had a guy, he came back in my life a few weeks ago, right? I didn't even know who he was, which I'm quite glad about. Clearly forgot him. It wasn't that memorable at the time. Or maybe at the time it was, but not after. And he found me on Instagram. And I'm like, who are you? I don't even know who you are. Because he started talking to me like he knew me. And goes, oh, we dated. I'm like, when did we date? It's like 2 years ago. I'm like, what did we do? So he told me. And then I remembered during the conversation, because I couldn't remember him, he's asking for a phone call, right? This is what he initially started off like, oh, I was been thinking about you the past few weeks and can we have a call, right? And then he went during the conversation and I was like trying to work out who he was, or we had a date and we were kissing and he said, oh, at that time I couldn't give you the reason we things didn't work out between us was this was his version, which was not accurate in totality, was the reason that we didn't work out was because you wanted to make our relationship public and I wasn't comfortable with that at the time. I was worried about what people thought, but now I think I don't care what people think. I think I don't care what people think is a wishy-washy statement, right? It's not saying I don't care what people think. It says I think I don't care what people think, basically. You know what I mean? So first of all, that's a wishy-washy statement. He went from asking for a call initially to then jumping straight to he wanted to take me for a coffee. This guy doesn't even live near me. This would have been a date, right? An in-person date. Bear in mind, I haven't seen him for over 2 years, right? And I worked out who he was. I worked out what really happened. What really happened was I said on the dating app that I'm asexual, that I don't have sex. And I told him all about this. And he said he was absolutely fine with no sex. He was fine being with an asexual girl. It was all fine, right? No problem. It's good for him, basically. So he came for a date with me in my city. I remember we were in Nando's and we also had movies planned, right? I watched one movie already. We're in Nando's and he revealed during that conversation he can be with me because I'm asexual. And he would be worried what his parents think and his whole community. And he could not be with me. And basically in the conversation, I was like, what else don't I know about you or something? And he was basically indicating that I couldn't trust him on other things either. Right, so he lied to me. He's a liar. So a liar came back into my life after 2 years. He didn't even say sorry for the way he treated me. Sorry, he lied to me about saying he could be with an asexual girl and couldn't. He told me some baloney about the fact he wasn't in the right, worried about what he was worried about what his family think, what people think, right? Which, fair enough, that's partly true. He's worried about what people think, but we weren't even in a relationship. This was a date. This wasn't an actual relationship, right? But he did know, and I did make it clear, even in my profile, that I am public on my channel and I like a relationship, to be public. I won't hide and have a secret relationship. I make that very clear with the guy. If a guy is not happy to be seen with me in public, it's not for me. He can have that type of relationship with another girl, go ahead, but it's not for me, right? So I make that perfectly clear. But we weren't actually in a relationship and he lied to me. It's a fact he lied. And then I said to him, basically, I said, oh, I remember you now. I said, you said that you could be with an asexual person. You said you could be with me. And then when we had Nando's, you told me otherwise, that you couldn't actually be with me because you were worried about what your family think and your community and you couldn't do it. I said, and you weren't honest. Therefore, I don't think I could trust you ever again. And I'd rather be around people who are trustworthy. So bye, basically. Blocked him on Instagram. I'd already blocked him on Facebook. He wanted to still be my friend, even though he lied to me before. And in the end, I just blocked him on there. I told him, I can't do this. I'm blocking you. It's just too much, staying with someone who's a liar, And so he came back. That guy didn't even recognize his bad behavior from before. He didn't say, I'm sorry, I lied to you. He was wishy-washy and he went straight from asking me for a phone call to an actual in-person date. I personally just think he was lonely. He'd gone through some relationships which weren't as good as the date he had with me, because the date was really, he said to me, he's never felt so loved by someone in his whole entire life, not even by his family, if I remember right, than he did on that date with me. That one date with me, he felt so loved. He never felt that in his whole entire life, not even from his family, that much love, right? This was just a date, right? So I had a massive impact on him. When you feel that feeling, it gives you a visceral feeling, right? It gives you a physiological feeling that's hard for someone else to live up to. So I'm guessing that because I said, oh, what made you change your mind? He goes, oh, I'd like to talk to you over it for coffee. So didn't really answer. He did just say he'd had some things happen in his life. I'm guessing relationships. And that's what made him have a change of mind, basically. But that's not my problem, is it? He's changed his mind, but he hasn't really, has he? He's, as far as I can tell, probably he's had some relationships, date or whatever happened. They didn't give him the feeling I gave him, and so he's coming back for more. And he just wanted a date to get that same feeling back. Not caring about me, not caring about his actions, how they impacted me, the lies that he told me, the deception of the lies. Do you know what I mean? Not saying sorry, not changing his behavior. This is very selfish. When guys do this, or anyone does this, it's very, very selfish. They come back for their own selfish personal gain, not because they're taking accountability and responsibility for their actions and the way they treat you and correcting the bad behavior and doing it on a permanent basis. Then they're not doing nothing. So what, he hasn't spoke to me for 2 years. So what, he thinks, oh, he thinks he might have changed. Is that my problem? No, it's not my problem. I've moved on with my life now, and I don't want someone who's a liar back in my life. So I blocked him. Am I bad to block him? No, I'm not bad to block him. I'm protecting my own safety and well-being, my emotional safety, my mental safety, my personal space on the internet. It's my space. Why should someone who's toxic be in my space? Why should a liar be in my space? They don't have the right to be in my space, right? They don't have a. Would you let someone who's going to abuse you into your home? Would you open the front door and say, "Come into my lounge, give me some more abuse"? Or are you going to abuse me? I don't know, because you're a liar. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Let's have an up and down relationship again. And that's what often people go back to. They go back to the patterns of the up and down relationship, the up and down connection, because they're used to that. You get on like a rocking ship, you know, up and down. And you get so used to it on a visceral level that you think that's normal. And so, you know, this is often from past relationship dynamics, upbringing, stuff like this, right? So this is not good. Right, we need to get off the rocking roller coaster, the rocking boat, or whatever you want to call it, the rocking ship. And we need to be finding inner peace within ourselves and know that it's not about being unkind to someone else. It's about being kind to ourselves. We should be looking after the person. It's not about self-centeredness. This is about self-respect. This is about caring about yourself and loving yourself enough to know that you deserve better and that you are not going to allow the abuser back in your space, in your head, in your energy, in your time, in your life. Life is so friggin' short. It is so friggin' short. Why waste your time on people like this who don't deserve to be in your life, who are spreading toxicity like a virus in you? Why be with someone like this? Why even look to someone like this and give them the respect they don't give you, to even give you the clarity that they can't give you because they're a lie, deceiver, and betrayer? Do you understand where I'm coming from? They can't give you the closure you're looking for. You have to close the door yourself. The clarity is that person, that version of them, is no longer in existence. Did it exist? In part, in particles, in lump sums? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. Do you know how many lies they told you? No. Do you know how much deceit went on? Do you know everything they deceived you about? Do you know everything they deceived you about? Do you? Maybe they told you a lot, but maybe they didn't tell you everything, right? It's designed to warp your perception. It's manipulation. It's psychological and emotional abuse. This is something you should not be tolerating and you should walk away from. And if you need to talk to that person for reasons like you've got children together or something, keep it very minimal, formal, business-like. That's it. That's all you have to do. You don't owe this person anything at all. Do not allow them to psychologically manipulate you again back into their sphere, right? Take your personal power back and keep it, because you deserve it. You deserve to go and be with loving, caring, kind, compassionate people who have your back, who mutually respect you, and who want to spend time with you and see you. Do you know something that happened recently? There's a couple of things that happened that was really good, right? I saw that there was this girl. I got chatting with her at a bus stop. I've done a shorts video about this actually, and got chatting with her at the bus stop, right? And she was talking to me. We were talking about her holiday and stuff, and I was talking about I don't fly on a plane, and she really was curious to know like why I was like, not flying on a plane, like what happened and how long I've traveled before and what the feeling's like and all this lot. And that to me is someone who's paying attention to me. She's a stranger, never met her to my knowledge, although sometimes people's faces look familiar. She looked a bit familiar in her face, but she works at Costa Coffee, so, but I don't usually go to Costa Coffee, so unless she's walked past me or something in my city from there, I don't know. But anyway, I'm assuming that I don't know this person. She's a stranger to me, right? And so we got talking, right? But she had a curiosity in me. She wanted to talk to me. She loved my personality. I felt so alive and vibrant and energetic around her. If I think about that feeling and about her curiosity and about her interest in me compared to someone who's deceived me, lied to me, betrayed me, checked out mentally and emotionally with me, devaluing me, taking me for granted, you know, basically saying things are fine when they're not, what, all that type of shit, right? Excuse my language, right? Yeah, I've come across this girl who doesn't even know me, early 20s, I'd say she is, could be a bit older, but anyway, I think she's in her 20s, and chatting to me and asking me curious questions about myself, taking an interest, and she was really, you know, wanting to talk to me, and we were chatting away together, and, you know, I wouldn't have had that happen probably had I actually been in a connection that's gone now, right? Because had I been focused on a connection that ended up not being healthy for me in the end, had I focused on that, right, then I wouldn't have probably met this girl and had a wonderful chat where I felt alive. I felt like my younger teenager self again. I felt alive. I felt happy. I felt like someone was really curious about me. Someone was really interested in me. And I felt valued and respected in that moment. I felt like someone was really wanting to talk to me because they love my bubbly personality. And I felt like I could be my youthful self again and come alive and be Sandra. And there was two other people listening. And, you know, like when she was on the bus, I had to get off the bus sooner than her, and she said, "Oh, take care, bye," in front of everyone on the bus, shouted it out to me across, because we weren't sat together on the bus, we were sat in different seats. I had my shopping trolley on me with my shopping, so I have to sit in kind of the disabled thing, and you know, she was sat on the other, like, disabled thing the other way. I don't know if she was disabled. I actually got hidden disabilities, as you know. And so, you know, so for her to shout out and be enthusiastic and actually say goodbye, do you know how good that made me feel in that moment? It made me feel like really like she valued me as a person. She valued my personality. She liked me for me. She was that invested in, you know, me as a person in that moment, and the conversation she had with me, that she felt the need to specifically say, "Take care" to me and bye in front of everyone on the bus. How important and special do you think that person made me feel? Right? How much am I lighting up now? How much is my face happy? If I compare that to the connection that's had to go, right? If I compare that, did that person value me in the end? No. I set a boundary. They decided to overstep that boundary. I set the boundary for my own health and well-being, and there was a lot of other stuff that went on, which was unhealthy for me, right? And so that's gone, right? As it is, right? And as far as I'm concerned, the person behind that connection, I don't even know who they are anymore, right? Because like I said, that person's gone, right? I don't know who they are anymore, right? So anyway, so when I'm talking from these principles, it's ones that I'm drawing from different examples in my life, right? So that you can understand. I know what I'm talking about from experience. Now, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. So this is not professional advice. This is my own personal experience. Take from it what you will, right? It's up to you to decide for yourself whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Heather says self-respect would be a great topic. And Heather also says before that, no thanks to abusive relationships. Yeah, abusive relationships are really tough. Most people don't realize that deception is a form of abuse. Deception's got kind of, it's not, how can I put it? It's not held as something that people see as abuse, but deception is a form of abuse. If someone's deceiving you, they're warping your perception of them and who they really are and their true self and identity for whatever reason. Your job's not to find out the reason of why they're doing that to you. Your job is to know they're doing that to you, because as empathetic people, we can give to these people, give to the deceivers. Like, oh my God, what bad childhood they have. You know, what went on? We have bad childhoods. We can be bullied. But does that make us deceivers? No. You have a path to choose in life. You can choose to deceive or not deceive, right? You can choose to say honesty or dishonesty. You can choose to be true or untrue. We all get to make choices in life, right? And what choices we make says a lot about ourselves, our integrity, our character, and our values and morals and beliefs and ethics, right? I don't like people who lie or deceive or betray. These are not someone who've got a moral compass. As far as I'm concerned, it's immoral to lie to someone, to deceive them and to betray them. It's immoral to gaslight them and blur their whole reality. Do you know what I mean? Having your reality blurred. I mean, I have my reality like blurred, basically the whole perception of a person when they deceived me for over 5 years. I mean, just think that person blurred my whole reality for over 5 years. Do you know what that does to your brain? I had to just give myself a closure. I'm had to say, right, you'll never know what was the truth of this person, what wasn't. You'll never know. Ever. It's no good going around in circles because you're wasting your life and your time and your energy. You will never know. That doesn't mean to say I'm still over that betrayal, because I'm not. I have a lot of betrayal trauma from it, because of course I'm constantly thinking in the back of my mind, like, God, they really did that, and like, you know, like what was true and what wasn't. And I just have to keep telling myself over and over again, repetitively, give yourself a closure, Sandra. You've got closure. You cannot trust someone who deceives, lies, or betrays you. The fact they're not trustworthy means that is the closure. That's all the closure you need. They weren't really a true friend. They didn't really care about you. Didn't really value you, because they lied to you. In the sense they deceived you. They warped all your perception of who they were. That's manipulation. That's psychological manipulation for their own means and gains, right? So we have to leave these people behind. You have a sip of water. And we have to move on, right? Even if it's tough. Even if the stakes are incredibly high. Years ago, I couldn't have moved on, but I've learned my lesson now. I've learned that if someone oversteps your boundaries, however hard it is, you have to have the self-respect to walk away. If someone lies, deceives, or betrays you, you don't owe them anything. They're the ones who've harmed you. You haven't harmed them. You know, if they've harmed you in a way, it's easier to let them go. What we do is we get too compassionate with these people. Oh, they must have gone through such hard times. Right? But that's not warranted at the stage that you find out they've deceived, lied, and betrayed you. Especially if they've been aggressive towards you, if they've not taken any accountability for their actions, not sorry, not empathetic, they're deflecting, they're gaslighting you. They're making you to be the person that's wrong in this when they're the ones who deceived, lied, and betrayed you. These are just toxic behaviors. You cannot work with these people, right? They're not cut from the same cloth as honest people who are trying to change themselves for the better and grow in a good way, right? Growth is not about ego and thinking you're better than anyone else. Growth is about having integrity and realizing that you still have work to do. I still have work to do myself constantly. I'm getting better though, because the connection that recently ended, I walked away from due to the behavior and the things that weren't honest, you know? So I'm not going to dive into too much detail about that, but obviously, you know, I had to walk away from that situation. And I had the courage to do it, which I would never have done years ago. I would have kept tolerating that type of behavior. You know, I would have kept tolerating it. And it would have been stressful and upsetting and probably loads of arguments and stuff. But I had the courage to walk away. I wouldn't have done that years ago. You know, but I have self-respect now. I respect myself. So because I respect myself, my self-respect and self-love is more important than a liar. Why would I put a liar, deceiver, or betrayer before myself? I wouldn't. Why would I do that? That's disrespecting yourself. If you've got a problem with self-love and self-respect, that's what you need to work on. You need to work on building that, right? Building that up, building that confidence. Like if someone treats you badly, you accept that bad behavior. That's actually the pattern. So I used to think that, you know, like in relationships and dating scenarios and stuff like that, I used to think the patterns were just the fact you attracted, for example, maybe a toxic person because of your patterns. But the true pattern you need to break is the acceptance of the bad behavior and staying in that situation. the way you break the pattern is by recognizing what you can't tolerate in a relationship, friendship, dating scenario. It's what you can't tolerate. It's something that makes you feel unsafe, unwell, uneasy. Of course, you try to talk to the person about it, but if they won't talk to you about it, they avoid the subject, or they show you aggression or gaslighting, deflection, all these type of things you can't work with, then it's time to leave, right? It's time to leave and get the hell out of there for your own safety. Self-respect is all about loving yourself, wanting yourself to be safe, supporting your own well-being, allowing yourself to be grounded in yourself and your own reality. Like, I'm on my own, right? But you can be in a relationship, friendship, dating scenario and be totally alone, right? It's better to be on my own with myself, who can comfort myself, be honest with myself, love myself, respect myself enough to not let someone devalue me and disrespect me. Like, it's better to be on my own than be with someone like that. It's always better to be by yourself on your own than be with someone who displays toxic behaviors and who's turned toxic. You don't want to be around that type of person, right? You want to be around people, including yourself, who's kind and caring to yourself. Kindness to yourself should come first, in the sense that you're not a people pleaser. You shouldn't be. If you're people pleasing, again, a lot of the time you're not actually being your full true self usually, because you're doing things just to please the other person when really you don't want to. And that, you could argue, is still a form of deception, right? So we need to get out the people pleasing habit, and we need to please ourselves first and foremost, because the person that you are, the being that you are, that's the being you were given at birth. Matthew Hussey talks about this quite a lot. I learned this from him. Is the only person that you have to take care of. It's your job, your full-time job to take care of is yourself, because you were born with yourself. This comes from Matthew's teachings, right? Your only job, your real true job forever in this life is to look after your person, who is you. That's your job. This means feeding, putting shelter there, watering, nurturing and nourishing your mental health, your physical health, your physiology, your soul, doing things that are good for you, and working on yourself, your self-expression, your authenticity, and try not to beat yourself up when you've chosen the wrong person or people. I mean, isn't that a thing? We can beat ourselves up for actually getting into that friendship, relationship, or dating scenario. We can be, how can we have trusted that person? How can we have been so stupid to have put our faith and trust in that person, thinking that they were okay, healthy even for us, are great for us, only to be disappointed and let down by the truth that they're a deceiver, a liar, or a betrayer. We can blame ourselves for that. It was only a couple of years ago that I was thinking about a particular person and questioning them because of the previous friendship betrayal I had. That made me question other friendships and connections. Right? But I decided to go over that, if you were, and decided to trust the other person based on their own merits, not what someone else is like. Unfortunately, that person has turned out to not be good either for me in the end, right? So it's like a double betrayal, if you like. But I can't beat myself up. I gave the person the benefit of the doubt. I believed them. I trusted them. I thought I was safe with this person. I thought they had my best interests and well-being at heart. But when you find out someone is a deceiver, a liar, or betrayer, which really they're all interlinked. Like, if someone has lied to you, they've deceived you, right? If someone goes doing something that purposely harms you, right? That's like a betrayal of your trust and the loyalty you placed in them, right? These are all really interlinked, right? These are all unhealthy, toxic behaviors. And it says more about their character and them and their insecurities and their problems than it does about you. And you have to understand that that's their behavior. You're not responsible for their behavior. If they've chosen to behave like that, that's not your fault. They're responsible for their behavior, not you. It's not up to you to figure them out and spend the rest of your life figuring that person out, right? That's not your job. Your job is to figure yourself out, to go within yourself, to self-reflect, and to choose you every time. I had to choose me, right, recently in the connection. I had to choose myself. I had to choose my self-respect. I had to decide I can't tolerate this behavior anymore. This is not healthy for me. This is definitely not healthy. I'm not safe with this person anymore. I'm not emotionally safe, not physically safe. I can't be around this person anymore. This person isn't who I thought they were anymore. Right? I had to come to terms with that very quickly and act in my own best interests from a safety point of view. This is not about selfishness. This is about staying safe. Right? Because people can turn and you're like, who the hell are they? I don't know who they are. That person I thought they were is gone. They don't even exist anymore. Were they even in my imagination? You can even think that, right? It's not my problem that they decide to deceive me or whatever they did, right? Lied and whatever. It's not, because lying's a form of deception, right? So it's not up to me to work them out, and to think, oh, poor them. No, it's poor me. Why should I put up with that bad behaviour? Why should I stand for it? Right? Why should I stand to be in a position where my safety and well-being is completely compromised? Why? Because I'm not looking after my person. My job is to look after my person. It's not always easy looking after my person, which is me. It's not easy looking after myself 24/7, 365 days a year. But do I like myself? Yes, because I've learned to like myself. Do I love myself? Yes, I do. Do I like spending time with myself? Yes, I do, because I think about myself. I don't think about what others tell me about myself, the negative people, the people that, some people don't like my personality. They think I talk too much, I'm too loud, whatever. They don't like that, right? That's my shining light, being loud and bubbly and energetic. That's me. That's the core of who I like to be. The girl on the bus recognised that. The girl on the bus that before I got on the bus, the girl I was talking to at the bus stop, I should say, she recognised the things that I love in myself. She recognised my vibrant, energetic personality, my talkative nature, my inquisitiveness. She was inquisitive about me. Reciprocity was there. This is good. This connection is good. It was only for a fleeting time, right? But this is good. This is respecting myself when I've left a situation that is no good for me. And believe me, that it's one of the hardest situations that I've ever had to leave in my entire life for my own good. And I had to act very quickly. Very quickly. Right? No one should have to go through that, right? But unfortunately, there are people out there that are not being honest with themselves, probably, as well as others. There are people out there that deceive. There are people that lie. There are people that betray you. And usually a combination of all of them, if not all, all three of them together. Right? And we have to deal with the reality. It's not for us to work out their stuff. If we're trying to work out, we're trying to solve a situation. So in childhood patterns, right, we can have a pattern where for example, one of our caregivers, they weren't treating us well. And what we can try and do is fix another person in this present moment in order to solve the past problem we have with the caregiver, like give them help, give them support, try and fix them. Right? Be very careful of doing this. One is because you've actually got an issue yourself if you're trying to fix someone. And, depends what the issue is. It could be a deep thing, like you need to fix a problem with the current person, which tries to fix something in your past, right? Which the person isn't your past, right? And also, it puts you at a disadvantage if you think they're the vulnerable one, when really you're the vulnerable one. If they've lied, deceived, and betrayed you. You're the vulnerable one. They've got the power. So even if they're playing the victim and they're making out, oh, I'm so upset, then they've actually lied and deceived and betrayed you. They're playing the victim. They're not actually the victim. You are, right? It doesn't mean to say you have to keep telling yourself you're a victim over and over again and not get out of that feeling. But we have to face facts. If someone deceives, lies, and betrays you, abuses you emotionally and psychologically, through manipulation, by deception, warping the perception of who they are, then this is emotional and psychological abuse in which you are a victim at that point in time, not them. You've not done that to them. You've not lied or betrayed them. Whatever excuse they give you for doing it, it's them that did that. They could have chosen at any point in time to walk away from you. They could have chosen to do the right thing and say, hey, do you know what, I'm not truly, I can't gel with you. This is actually not who I am. Or, from the very beginning, as soon as they realize they just can't they can't live their truth with you. They can tell you at any point in time and they can walk away. Them choosing not to do that but stay and deceive, lie, or betray you is for their selfish benefit. It's not doing any good for you. Do you see where I'm coming from? You are actually the victim, not them. The worst thing is when someone plays a victim after they've lied or betrayed or deceived you, and then it makes you feel sorry for them. You're not here to feel sorry for them. You have to get to a point where you just don't feel anything for them anymore, because the person you thought they were is not who they are. They warped your reality. They deceived you. They warped your perception. So that person doesn't even actually friggin' exist. You don't know what was real and what wasn't. That's what's so hard when someone deceives you. It blurs your whole reality, and then it's hard to trust other people. It's hard to trust anything anyone says. But that's why we then have to start trusting ourselves more and more to build up strength within ourselves. This doesn't mean not engaging in conversation with anyone. It doesn't mean shutting ourselves away, never speaking to anyone again. Because we have to get on with life and realise not everyone is like that person. I had a great time with that girl who I didn't know at the bus stop, with her inquisitiveness about me and curiosity, her love for my personality, her warmth in specifically saying goodbye to me made me feel so special. And yesterday, another example is I met someone that I'd only ever met once at Meetup, a new Meetup I went. I did a video on it, a shorts video here about a social event I went to. I got out socially and I went to a Meetup basically. And I did a walk through the park going to the Meetup on the way there. Actually, there was a cute Indian guy who went to the camera. But I just thought I'd throw that in there. It made me smile. But anyway, and this guy, I never met him until this Meetup. And he saw me in the supermarket yesterday and he came up to me. I didn't even see him. And he's like, hello. And I'm like, oh, hi there. And he wears a mask on his face, so I don't actually know completely what he looks like. And we were chatting. He said, oh, I come here to get some basil. And I said, oh, I come to do some shopping. And I came here for like one thing and end up going out with more, what it's like. And we got chatting, and I said, oh, it's really nice of you to stop and talk to me, because I've had people from other meetups who don't even do that. And he's like, what? Why would someone not talk to you if they've already met you? And he couldn't even fathom that out. Do you see how it's different behaviors with different people? I said, well, the 20s to 30s group that I was seeing last year, I stopped seeing last year because people had changed. He goes, what do you mean people had changed? I said, well, it wasn't the same people there anymore. The people that were there before got on well and chatted with me. And then when I went in the end, I stopped going because the people just basically left me out and didn't want to talk to me. So that didn't feel good. So I went to Tech Exeter events instead, although they haven't really had as many recently. And then I came to this meetup recently where I met you. I said, so, that's my experience. He goes, oh, I can't understand that. So he can understand why people would not want to talk to me. You know what I mean? So he obviously, I wasn't even agreeing with everything he said. Like when we were chatting, it was a little bit difficult in the sense that we had very different perspectives on stuff. But still, he found value in talking to me and purposely. I didn't even notice it. If he'd have not said anything in Tesco's, I don't think I would have even noticed him, especially as he wearing a mask and I was very engrossed in what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? My mind, I just come out of the e-shop just before it shut because I got a new phone that I'm on. And they set out for me. It took ages, nearly all day. And so I just popped into Tesco that's across the road. It was shutting within the half hour. And so I was really engrossed in what I was doing, getting my potatoes and things like that, right? And so I wouldn't have even noticed him. So do you see how people's attitudes are really different? You're going from someone who doesn't appreciate you, if they're a deceiver, liar, betrayer, they don't really value, they don't really appreciate you. Then you're going like, I'm going and I'm around a girl who likes talking to me at the bus stop, is curious about me, makes me feel really good about myself and my personality, is enthusiastic to see me and chatty and really cares enough to take care of myself when I go at the bus in front of the whole bus. And I've got this other guy, first meet up, we didn't even agree on everything, got very different perspectives of social media and stuff. He hates social media and stuff like that, and I love it. And very different views, but yet he still found value in talking to me and specifically made a point of talking to me. do you know how, do you see the contrast? So the problem is when we get into a habit of being around toxicity or ending up with toxic relationships and toxic people around us, even if they don't appear to be that way at first, maybe not for some time, right? But they go that way unexpectedly, even maybe, then do you know what I mean? We can be so engrossed being around those people all the time and not feeling appreciated anymore, not feeling valued, and not really getting the care and attention that we deserve and the enthusiasm anymore, and being taken for granted and stuff like this, right? But when you actually see other people and the way they treat you much better, you're like, oh, there's something different out there. This is how we rewire our brain, right? Which I really need to do, right? Because clearly if I'm ending up like, it's not my fault these people like lied, betrayed, or deceived me. All these people it's examples of people that I've told you, right? It's not my fault they did that. That's not me. And if you're an attractive person, attractive in personality, or you've got things other people need, right, then you're going to have people come to you and friend you or connect with you, right? So you can have what other people need, right? But when they've got everything they need from you, or everything they think they need from you, right, then they can discard you, devalue. Devalue usually comes before discarding and stuff like this, right? But if you only ever know that, if you constantly, I mean, I've obviously had years of deceit, right, which is really skews my actual perception, and it's not good, right? And that's something that's difficult, right? So I have to keep working on the discernment, right? But when I put myself around people who actually value me or make me feel valued, and I feel value me, who go out their way to know about me and who take the time to actually, talk to me, that's a completely different side that I don't see with these other people. I don't see anymore in these other people, right? Because I find out they deceived me or whatever, right? So we need to be going more towards, not wanting to solve the problems of the people that deceived, lied, and betrayed us. That's their problem. That's not your problem. And going towards the love and the light and the care and the compassion that you feel from others and people who value you for who you are. I mean, that's really one of the huge keys, isn't it, to successful connections, is people value you for who you are and make you feel valued and make you feel like, that you know what you're talking about and value your creativity or intellect or whatever it is that, is really prominent within you, your personality, right? People who really genuinely want you around, right? That is so much different. That's such different energy to someone you're always scrambling to get energy from or time or attention from, and who's imbalanced in the connection in some way. Do you know what I mean? It's a completely different thing. And the more we spend time around people that are good for us, that are, positive in our lives, that are bringing us up, that are plowing positive energy. I mean, I've been in the Love Life Club a lot recently. And because I've been finishing the confidence challenge, I did all 5 missions, which was great, and completed them. I've got to fill a survey out. And, I've come across some really nice people in there. So, and there's one particular person, and I get on so well with her. She's been through similar situations to me, and we really relate to each other. That's very healing. When you're around similar people who've had very similar situations, I know you are coming from a healthy growth place, you kind of like, it can help each other to heal more, right? So she's, I'm not going to go into all her personal details. It's not fair, right? I don't do that. But anyway, I just want to say we've got some commonalities and some, and things like that. And we understand where each other's coming from, right? I'm not going to go into any more details of that. Love Life Club stuff is private, and so is her conversation with me. But I just want to say, when you're around people who relate to you and who have been through some of the same things as you or similar, it can really, really, really help you in the healing process, right? So we need to be going towards the light, the love, the care, the compassion, and we need to be leaving behind the deception, the deceit, the lies, the betrayal. We need to close that chapter and door ourselves. We need to realize all the closure we need is the fact they deceived, lied, or betrayed us. That is the closure. Because you cannot get any further information out and trust it from that person. Deceit, lie, betrayal. You cannot, I repeat, cannot get any further information that you can trust from that person. Do you want them to just feed you bullshit again? Do you want to go back into the frying pan, into the fire? Do you want to disrespect yourself like that? And say, oh, right, okay, well, I'll just go back to a deceiver, liar, betrayer. Right, because I feel I have to, and I've got compulsion to talk to them to find out what happened. You're not going to get that closure because they deceived, lied, and betrayed you. They're not honest. So you have to that is the closure. This person was lied, deceived, or betrayed me. They're not honest. Therefore, the whole reality of the person that I thought they were has been warped. I don't know what was real, what wasn't. And that person doesn't exist anymore because what I thought about them wasn't reality. Because they blurred that for me. They distorted it. I hope you found this video useful and helpful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you, Heather, for being in chat. If you want to know more about asexuality, then go and grab a copy of Asexual Perspectives 47 Asexual Stories book on Amazon. And if you want to know more about relationships and life lessons to help you in your dating relationship life, grab a copy of Diary Confessions of a Hyper-Romantic Asexual, 78 Life Lessons to Ace Your Life, also available on Amazon. Okay, and I'll look forward to seeing you next video live stream. Thank you for being here. Lots of love. Got any comments, questions, or queries, pop them down in the chat below after this video has processed, and I'll see you soon. Lots of love. Take care, and thanks if you showed up live. I really appreciate you being here live. Love you to bits. Bye.